There's a quiet kind of hypnosis that begins the moment you unlock your phone. You don't notice it. You don't fight it. It feels harmless. But something ancient in your brain responds every time, like a child chasing a glimmer of light. On the wall, a notification appears, and a small spark of dopamine whispers, "Come closer." You obey, not because you're weak, but because you are wired to respond. Your brain is not a battlefield. It's a labyrinth of mirrors. And every ping, every buzz, every red circle is a reflection designed to bring you back to the same starting point. It's not just attention that's being captured. It's your will, your presence, your soul stretched thin across a screen that never stops. You weren't born distracted. This didn't begin with you. You learned to scroll before you learned to listen to your own thoughts. You learned to perform before you learned to feel. Somewhere between the likes, the swipes, and the filters, something inside you started to vanish. Slowly, silently. But this isn't about blame. This isn't about guilt. This is about awareness. It's about looking directly into the mirror your phone has become and asking gently, is this really where I want to live? Because your phone owns your soul is not just a dramatic phrase. It's a map of neural circuits, emotional shortcuts, and unconscious rituals that you didn't choose, but that now shape your days. And the question is no longer, am I addicted? The real question is, who am I becoming when I stop being here? Let's begin, It begins with a sound, barely a vibration. Maybe it's a message, maybe it's nothing, but your body reacts before your mind does. A subtle tension in your chest, a flicker of anticipation. Dopamine rises not when you receive the reward, but when you expect it. That moment just before you check is the hook. The screen doesn't need to deliver pleasure. It only needs to promise it. Inside your brain, in a region called the nucleus accumbens, small bursts of dopamine light up like sparks in the dark. These sparks are ancient. They once helped your ancestors survive by teaching them to pursue food, shelter, connection. But today, those same circuits have been hijacked, rewired by an endless stream of digital triggers that feel urgent, but leave no trace of nourishment behind. You don't scroll because it's fun. You scroll because your brain is waiting for something that rarely arrives. A comment, a like, a piece of good news, a laugh, a distraction from a thought that hurts. And when nothing comes, or when what comes doesn't satisfy, you keep scrolling. Not because you enjoy it, but because your brain, like a rat in a lab, has learned to press the lever. This is not about weakness. It's about design. Your phone was built to mimic the most addictive structures in behavioral science. Just like a slot machine, the reward is intermittent, unpredictable. The uncertainty makes it more powerful. Your body keeps returning not for pleasure, but for the hope of pleasure. That hope is addictive, and over time, the real becomes dull. A conversation without a screen feels slow. A moment of silence feels like absence. A sunset feels less alive, unless it's filtered. Gradually, your nervous system forgets how to feel joy without stimulation. It learns to chase, but forgets how to rest. And you forget how it felt to be present, fully, deeply, with nothing in your hands but the weight of your own existence. You think you're distracted, but distraction is not the root. It's the symptom. Beneath the restlessness lies something deeper, something older, a silence you've been trying to avoid. Not with noise, but with fragments. 1,000 fragments of information, stimulation, validation. But what you truly crave is presence. Gabor Maté once wrote that addictions are not about pleasure. They are about pain. They are not about weakness. They are about wounds. And the smartphone in this light is not merely a device, it's a soothing mechanism. a digital pacifier for an ache that never had words. Perhaps as a child, you reached for connection, and it didn't come, or it came unpredictably, or it came with conditions. You learned early that your emotions were too much or not enough, that your needs had to be hidden, that to be accepted, you had to be smaller, quieter, pleasing. And so you turned inward, you adapted, you survived. But the body remembers, the nervous system remembers. And now, in a moment of loneliness or doubt or shame, your fingers reach for the screen before you even notice the feeling. It's automatic. It's protective. It's familiar. But here is the paradox. The very thing that gives you momentary comfort reinforces the deeper pattern of disconnection. The phone fills the space, but it never meets the need. It simulates presence, but deepens the hunger. And, in time, your attention, the gateway to your own soul, becomes fractured. You scroll to escape discomfort. But what if discomfort is not the enemy? What if it is the doorway? A signal, a whisper from the parts of you that still wait to be seen, to be held, not through pixels, but through presence, through breath, through the stillness that no algorithm can replicate. There is a strange kind of emptiness that grows when you live, through interruptions. When your day is broken into notifications, messages, alerts, tiny fragments of demand disguised as relevance, you answer them, you respond. But something inside you is left unanswered. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, not as domination, but as the inner force that drives a person toward meaning, toward becoming. But when that will is scattered into 1,000 micro-reactions, what remains? You are not choosing your direction. You are being pulled, not by desire, but by distraction. Each notification is a spark, a call for attention, a promise of importance. But together, they don't build a life. They don't build a self. They build a loop where your energy is spent, but not invested. You are active, but not alive. Busy, but not becoming. This is not the silence of solitude. It is the silence of disconnection. Not the kind that rests, but the kind that forgets. Forgets why you started something. Forgets what you believe in. Forgets that you were once a person who dreamed of more than just staying updated. And slowly, the soul retreats. It becomes tired, not from effort, but from meaninglessness. You feel the fatigue not just in your mind, but in your being. A dull ache where purpose used to live. This is the quiet nihilism of the digital age. Not loud, not obvious. Just a slow erosion of depth, a steady leak of presence. And beneath it, a silent question that haunts your gestures. What am I really doing with my life? If all I'm doing is reacting, there is a cost to being constantly reachable, not in time. Intention, a soft but unrelenting buzz beneath the skin, a subtle tightness in the chest that never quite dissolves. The body doesn't lie. It knows what the mind tries to normalize. Studies in emotional neuroscience reveal what you already feel. Anticipation of a notification, even before it arrives, elevates cortisol, the stress hormone. It's not the message that causes distress. It's the state of waiting. The mind remains on alert. The nervous system cannot settle. You are never fully off, never fully here. The modern brain was not built for this many doors open at once. Focus becomes diluted. Memory weakens. Emotional regulation falters. You forget not only details, you forget your own center. You forget the quiet rhythm of your breath, the steady ground beneath your feet, the simplicity of now. And so, even in rest, you are restless. Even in quiet, you crave noise. Not because you want it, but because your system no longer remembers how to be without it. The phone doesn't just interrupt your attention, it trains your biology to fear its absence. In this environment, peace begins to feel foreign. Intimacy feels slow. Silence feels threatening. And you once whole now live in fragments, 1,000 open tabs in the mind. A body constantly preparing, but never arriving. This isn't just about attention. It's about identity. When your nervous system is trained to respond instead of reflect, to anticipate instead of feel, to scroll instead of pause. Something essential gets lost. Not gone, but buried, waiting for a slower rhythm to bring it back. There are moments when silence feels like medicine. Not the kind you take, but the kind you remember. A walk without your phone. A page turned slowly. The face of a loved one, uninterrupted. These are not luxuries. They are returns. Returns to a state the body still knows, even if the mind has forgotten. Neuroscience speaks of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. What fires together, wires together. And what rests together, heals together. When you step away from the endless scroll, even briefly, the circuitry begins to shift. The reward system softens. The stress pathways quiet. You begin to feel again. Not more, but deeper. This is not a rejection of technology. It's a reorientation. A remembrance that you are not your reactions. That stillness is not laziness. That boredom is not failure. It is space. Space where something new can emerge. Something truer. There are stories, quiet ones, of people who made small choices with deep consequences. A woman in marketing who began each day with 2 hours offline. No emails, no feeds, just breath, paper, morning light. Within weeks, her anxiety dropped. Her creativity returned. Not as a flash, but as a presence. She didn't add more to her life. She removed noise. And in that space, she met herself again. Resilience is not strength. It is rhythm. It is remembering the pulse beneath the static and choosing, again and again, to return to it, not perfectly, but consciously, tenderly. This is the pathway, not away from the world, but back into it with your soul intact. There comes a moment when the screen dims, and something inside you flickers. Not the need to check again, but the quiet recognition of what has been traded, not stolen. Traded. Your attention for stimulation, your presence for pace, your soul for signal. The smartphone was never just a tool. It became a mirror that reflects not only your face, but your impulses, your insecurities, your hunger for meaning. It became, with time, an emotional prosthesis always within reach, but never enough. It comforts, but it also confines. It informs, but it also fragments. Nietzsche once said that the greatest challenge is not to suffer, but to suffer consciously. To feel without fleeing. To look into the void and not turn away. Your phone made fleeing easy. But the self you abandoned waits still in the silence, in the slowness, in the spaces in between. Imagine now an inner shield, not against the world, but for your autonomy. A pact made in the quiet, a sacred boundary. Each time you choose presence over impulse, each time you step back from the pull of the screen, you forge a piece of this shield. You are not escaping the digital. You are remembering the human dot. And so, the invitation is not to delete, to renounce, or to condemn. It is to remember, to return, to reclaim, to notice, just once a day, when it feels like to be fully in your body, fully in your moment, fully in your life. What might happen if, for 3 days, you carved out 45 minutes just for being without screens, without interruption, without needing to be anyone else? Not to improve, not to perform, but simply to remember what it means to exist. To be, your phone does. Not have to own your soul. But to take it back, you must choose to feel again. And in that feeling, you just might find your way home. If something in you stirred during these moments, if a quiet ache surfaced, or a memory returned, or a part of you whispered, "Yes, I felt this," then honor it, not with urgency, but with presence. Let this not be just another video you watched, but a threshold you crossed. For the next 3 days, gift yourself 45 minutes a day, undisturbed, unwatched, unplugged. Walk without a destination. Read something that breathes. Sit in stillness and meet your own eyes in the mirror. Let your nervous system exhale. Let your essence re-emerge, slowly, gently, and then observe. What arises in the silence? What truths? Return when the noise fades? You don't need answers. Only honesty. Only willingness. Because somewhere, behind the notifications and the noise, your soul is waiting, not to be saved, but to be seen. And if this touched something in you, share it, not as content, but as a conversation. With someone who's forgotten their own rhythm. With someone whose eyes haven't met their soul in a while. Your soul was never lost, only buried beneath too many signals. Now is the time to listen.